Hello, everyone. I'm Freddie Scott. That's Beth Shaha and JB Spisso, and we are excited to host this conversation about the art of working in a team and living in community. Today, we're going to be reinforcing one of our core pillars called Be a Manager and talk to you about the importance of managing a team and working within a team structure. And many of you have so many goals for this year, for your companies, for your organizations. And obviously, in order to accomplish those goals, you have to be able to work effectively as a team. So we're going to cover three specific things today. First, we're going to talk about communicating and connecting with your team members and how to lead those team members. We're also going to have a segment by JB, and he's going to be talking about managing stress and pressure and how to deal with rejection in the workplace. And then Beth is going to lead us in a conversation about leading your team and encouraging productivity and leading with empathy. And so before we even get started, I wanted to get Beth and JB's voices in here. So Beth, anything you'd like to say to our audience as we're getting ready to have this awesome conversation, and then JB follow up with that.
Yeah, I'm excited about this. I think this is a really great opportunity for us to come together and say, where can we really make a difference right now, right here? How can we lead with intention, lead with agility, lead with compassion? How can we lead with empathy? And so we're going to spend some time talking a little bit about those things and also give you some takeaways, some real, practical tools for you to try today, tomorrow, that we can all begin to kind of infiltrate into our leadership style. So grateful to be here. Thank you, Freddie, for the intro. JB?
Thanks, Beth. Thanks, Freddie. It's a great day to be an American. Let's go. When we're talking about all this, we're talking about taking all of these disruptors that are going on in life and, narrowing our focus so we can get things done, to get things accomplished, because there's so much stuff going on in our lives, whether it's school, life, work, gym, friends, on and on. And so you have to narrow your focus and take time to work on those things individually as you're accomplishing your mission. Freddie and I were talking a little bit about football. Football, there's three phases of the operation, offense, defense, special teams. Each phase has to take care of itself. And it's the same thing with you. So as we're going on this, we're glad that you're here with us, and let's go.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. So we're going to dive right into how important it is to be able to communicate and connect with your team. Now, this is something that we all have to do all the time. And no matter what phase of work that you're in, no matter how long you've been doing work, connecting with people is essential for work. And so I'm reminded though of something really you would think is basic, but it's something that's still so essential for effective communication and effectiveness and efficiency for organization in football. So I remember my rookie year playing with the Atlanta Falcons. I was so excited to finally make it to that level. I had been fortunate to play high school ball and was fortunate to play college football at Penn State and had success. And I couldn't wait to get that NFL playbook. And because what's all the secrets? What do they call this? How did no? It's still football. It's still the same game, but it was an entirely different playbook. And I opened the playbook because back then it was still in a paper, binder, three-ring binder that you go and you turn. So I opened up the playbook, and guess what's on page one? The dimensions of a football field. A football field is 120 yards, 10 yards for the end zone, a 100-yard playing field, and 100. It's so many yards wide. What do you call outside these lines? Out of bounds. And I'm like, wait a minute. This is the NFL. This is supposed to be like the secret sauce of everything. And you're literally breaking down the dimensions of a football field that we've been playing on our entire life since we've been in Pee Wee. And then it gets better. After each play, you stand in what's called a huddle. And there is a diagram with where every position would stand in the huddle, and that all eyes would be on the quarterback, and the quarterback would give a cadence or a play call in this manner. He'll say the formation, the play, the snap count, and then repeat it. The formation, the play, and the snap count. And then this is in writing, literally in writing. And then the group in together, when the quarterback says ready, everyone will say break and clap your hands and you will run to your position. If you'll notice, every NFL game, unless you're in a hurry up offense, there is some form of standard method of communication that offense or defense goes through every single time. And I thought, well, maybe they just did it my rookie year and, just as the orientation. But guess what? Every single year, the first meeting of the year goes over how do we communicate? Where do you stand? Who's talking? What attention do you give? And so as we break this down for business, I want you to think about standardizing and not assuming that things that should be just commonplace isn't necessarily commonplace, especially when things get so busy and everyone is doing their own thing and they're trying to run and do their jobs and do it effectively, and they fire off the email and they run to the meeting and all these things are happening. But if you don't slow things down intentionally and standardize your communication, then things can go awry and people can get off track. And one group is trying to do this play and someone else is trying to do something entirely different. So I'm going to share 3 specific strategies that can build relationship and build communication within your company immediately. So the first one is a relationship building strategy. Now, none of this is rocket science, but it's all things that are just basic, commonplace. Start here and make sure that you're checking the boxes of what things are a part of your standard operating procedures within your organization. So the first thing for relationship building within your organization is you want to have and make sure that you are modeling active listening. So show genuine interest in your team members' input by summarizing their points and asking clarifying questions. Don't get so caught up in your meetings that it's always a one-way conversation and not a two-way conversation, or at least I heard you, but now this is what I'm saying. The second thing to build relationships within your organization, show empathy. Understand individual challenges and provide the support where needed. Now, I realize that sometimes that means that we can't talk business all the time, but by being present with your team and letting them know that if you need me, I'm here for you, you're going to get them to lean in, buy in, and trust you even more, which means that they're going to be working harder for you because they know that you care about them. Then the third piece in building relationships is transparency. Share your goals. Discuss how you make decisions. Share updates openly and honestly and consistently to build trust. Those 3 things can help you build relationships. And in fact, score yourself on how well have I done last year in active listening, showing empathy, and being transparent. If those scores are low, then that's going to negatively impact your capacity to really build your organization and build your team effectively. The second thing, some simple team building activities. Now, I'm going to say this first one, and you say, wait a minute, is that a team building? It is. The first one is have one-on-one meetings. Some people need your undivided attention. So even though it is efficient to have more group meetings, in order to build your team needs to know that you believe in them as a person and individually, and they need to know that I have time to have your ear. The second thing, of course, conduct workshops, do skill development and especially for those creatives or people that have been doing things for over and over again. Identify what are the biggest issues or challenges or opportunities that, man, if we were able to do these things, and my team was able to develop this skill or sharpen this axe, man, look at how more effective we can be as an organization. So you dream and craft the subjects and the skills that you want them to cultivate throughout the year. Of course, have social gatherings throughout the year. Ask yourself, well, what type of cadence should that look like? Should it be formal, informal? But again, if you're trying to be a transformational and inspirational leader, you have to be able to have the time where you are bonding with your team and your team is bonding together. And then the last one within team building activities, recreation or recognition rituals. Recognition rituals. So this is either weekly shout outs, monthly shout outs, some form of awards or achievements that you have structured that they know if I do this, I'm going to get this shout out. Everybody loves participation trophies. Everyone loves to know that, hey, if I do a good job, I'm going to be acknowledged and rewarded. And at the end of the day, we all need to know that, you know what, I appreciate my boss, my manager, my leader giving me a pat on the back because I've been grinding for so long. And I appreciate the fact that someone took the time to acknowledge the work that I've done. The last thing is to have clear communication practices. So there's three things for you to do this. One, set expectations. Clearly define your roles, responsibilities, and goals. You'd be amazed with how many times, even though you may have said something initially, it could have been in writing initially, but as time goes by, if we don't go back to what was written or go back to those clearly defined roles, roles can get blurred and miscommunication can happen really quickly. Second piece, tailor your messages. Adapt communication styles based upon individual preferences. Some people prefer emails. Some people prefer a quick talk in a hallway. Some people need your undivided attention and want to know that you talk to them. Get to know your people and how they need you and meet them where they are so that way they can feel loved, appreciated, and affirmed. And then last one, follow up. Summarize your action items after meetings to ensure clarity. And if you do those things, you're going to be building a healthy organization by setting clear foundations of how to communicate, what they're experiencing when you communicate, and setting expectations after you've communicated. So, Beth, JB, what do you think of as I was saying that? I saw some head nods and some other things. What came to mind when I was talking?
Yeah. So, first of all, when you talked a little bit about just the basics, right? You opened up that playbook and they took you from the very beginning of, the dimensions of the field, what we're going to say in the huddle, what we're going to do in the huddle, how we're going to line up, all of that. I do think that there is such safety in just knowing the basics. And I think that when people understand from the get-go, what are our one, two, threes? What are our basics? What is our mission? What is our vision? Where are we going here? Like, what is this about? I think it comes back to what you just shared, this clear communication. I really do believe that clarity is kindness. And so anything I've ever been a part of, or anytime I've ever watched an organization succeed, everybody knows which direction they're going in. They're not just getting in the canoe and rowing. They're getting in the canoe, they know where they're going, and they share this vision for what's to come. And that clarity and those basics truly to me is safety. So I'm just thinking about that. How about you, JB?
Yeah, those were great, Freddie. I was like taking copious notes here while you were doing that. Every time you talk, I learn more. And that's the other thing I want everybody to know. It doesn't matter if you're a master at something, you can always learn from somebody else. So, try to gain that information. Freddie, I love it. You have to be a master at the basics. People say, okay, what's the difference between the regular military and special operations? Well, they all do the same thing: shoot, move, and communicate. Special operations just do it more refined and faster, but they still do the basics. They do the basics very well. So you have to become a master in the basics. And if you do that, then you can just put speed and repetition to it. But the second thing I thought was very important, what you said about the one-on-ones, how you have to meet with people one-on-ones, whether it's just 5 minutes. a day, or if you can do 10 minutes a week or whatever it is, and, not interrupted, not on your phone, not doing other things. Wait, I got to take a call. Like, you give them that personal attention, and then you can actually like almost look into somebody's soul and figure out like what they're good at and that sort of thing. So those two things for me: become a master of the basics, and how important one-on-one is for me was my big takeaways. And I think, Freddie, I'll add to that, the one-on-ones, we do so many things digitally now that I think like having a conversation with somebody is like, whoa, I mean, I have to go talk to that person. I'll just Snapchat them. I'll text them. I don't even know what Snapchat is. It's like people taking faces of each other. I can't understand it. But the more that we interact with people, the more that we can bring people um, on our team and see what's important to them.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember Chuck Noll, Hall of Fame Pittsburgh Steeler head coach. We were talking about the Steelers earlier. He said, champions are champions because they do the ordinary things consistently and better than everyone else. They don't make extraordinary plays. They do the ordinary things better and more consistently than everyone else. And so these communication standards suggest let's keep the basics the basics. Let's do it consistently. Let's do it with excellence. And let's do it so that way the people that we're called to lead will be in a position to follow us and to trust us into where we're trying to go. And we don't fall into mission drift because we're just doing stuff, but those things are not in alignment. So with that, JB, you're going to be talking about managing stress and pressure and rejection. So tell me more.
Wow, that's a big one right there. It's so funny, like managing stress. The military, they go to put you through these programs, whether it's, a Ranger assessment selection process, or Special Forces advanced selection, or any things like that, or even if it's simple as like basic training. It's all putting people into stressful situations to see how they will react. And I just remember when I was teaching like officer candidate school, we were trying to teach young officers that, when you give a radio call, do it calmly, do it accurately, especially if, you're calling in close air support or mortars or any type of call for fire. You have to do it accurately, right? So you don't call that in on your own troops, and it's hits what you want to hit and that sort of thing. So we used to have a little radio call. We had like a little sound booth, and there was a radio they had to put in operations. And, it's easy for them to pick up the call and be like, Bluetooth 7, this is Bluetooth 1 in position, grid coordinate follows, and give the grid coordinate. It was easy. So I'm like, all right, we have to spice this up a bit. So I'd make them run around the barracks, do push-ups, everything else. And then when they went into the booth, we would peep in all these bombs and explosions and, heavy metal music. And it was so loud. They were like, they would start screaming on the radio. And then I would be like, why are you screaming? And they were like, oh, I don't know, because it's fine. Talk slowly. And then would do it again, then talk slowly. Then I'd have them come back in, and I would have the radio cord cut, so they'd be like talking on an empty hand mic, and I'd be like, the radio's not even hooked up. They're like, oh my gosh. So you have to practice those things in managing stress, and there's enough stress out there already without you bringing more to it. So you have to bring calm to the chaos. And I always saw the best leaders are so calm under pressure. They bring in calm to the chaos. It's, it's times I'm like, are they paying attention? Yeah, they are, because they're assessing everything that's happening. So let me give you some ways to manage your daily stress, right? First thing is, it goes back to what Freddie said, mastering the basics. It's embrace this discipline through routine. Why does the Army work, for example? Works, for example, because it's a routine. We tell you when to get up. We tell you when to eat. We tell you when to work out. We tell you when to go to the bathroom. We tell you when to go to sleep. We tell you what time range is. you work very well in a structured environment. So if you not structuring your day and having your next day plan, then you are putting stress on yourself. You don't have to be. I'm just sitting down here today and I'm getting ready and I have my list of things I have to accomplish today. I just write them on a piece of paper, so have those things that you can do this. So you need to leverage structure to create consistency in your daily life. Leverage structure to create consistency in your daily life. By doing that, you'll reduce chaos. And guess what else you do? You will foster that resiliency. What's resiliency? Bounce back. Okay. It's bounce back. Get knocked down, come back up. Um, Second thing is you need to have a perspective, the power of the perspective, as some people call it. Recognize the difference between like an immediate reaction and a measured response to stressors. Okay. Um, Obviously, if you're on a subway and something dangerous has happened, that's immediate. You got to react. But other things is like, okay, I'm driving into the city. Well, should I go at between 7 and 9 a.m. or leave between 5 and 7 p.m. Or maybe I can modify that so I'm not meeting the heavy traffic coming in. So you have to be able to plan that so you can manage that. So manage that power perspective. Listen, things are going to happen. It's going to come at you. There's going to be a traffic jam. Sometimes we're not sure what's going on. Adapt, overcome. Learn to evaluate the situations objectively and prioritize tasks and make decisions under pressure. That's it. Adapt and overcome. Things happen in life. When we talk about that strength and community that Freddie was uh, describing, you need a reliable support system to share burdens and gain perspective. Like with us here, you can share with us what's happening and we can give you some perspective in life, or with a good friend, or with maybe a teammate. So build a reliable support system. It doesn't have to be huge. You don't need to have 18 friends. Okay. So you can narrow that down, narrow your focus. And that last part I talk about is when things are going on, you got to what we call in the military fight in the now. Sometimes when I was going through a military selection or school, I was just trying to make it to lunch, and I was just trying to make it to dinner. Okay, that tastes gone. So that's what you have to do. You have to go after it each session at a time. And the last thing I'll tell you about managing stress is you got to love the battle. You gotta, there's a lot of people, and Freddie was a professional athlete. I'm sure there were people that were amped up on game days, and Freddie can tell you who they were, but there was people that were amped up for practice, right? I know that was Freddie. So you got to be amped up for the practice. You got to bring your best for the practice, okay? Because that's where it's at. Okay. So hopefully you got out of that. Now we'll talk about workplace rejection. I'm telling you, like the toughest thing is sometimes the workplace, right? Because you have to understand what's happening there and take rejection as feedback, not failure, but an opportunity to learn and grow. You might be in an office and people might not like you. That's the way it is. Listen, I was a pretty popular guy in the military, but there was people who didn't like me. I had to get over it. Okay. And I had to go out and do my best every single day. So they can't ever say, hey, you're not giving effort. You're not coming in with the right attitude, because you always control that. No one controls your effort and your attitude. Nobody. You want to try to break my attitude? I'm going to bring even a better attitude. You want to break my effort? I'm going to bring even a bigger effort. Okay. That's what you have to do. So that's part of managing workplace rejection. The second thing is stay mission focused. Align setbacks with your long-term goals. You get knocked down, come back forward. Maintain your own commitment for achieving success. Maybe it took you 12 days to do some type of Mitch your boss needed, and he whips it across the room. I pick it up, and guess what? I'm bringing you that document next time, even better. Reflect on yourself for growth, self-assessment and improvement. Okay, we don't always like to do that, but assess it for yourself. Find your areas of growth and seek mentorship or coaching as development. You know what I like to do after every major exercise? I do 3 sustains, 3 improvements. I just write them down on a little post-it note. Hey, 3 things I thought I did well, 3 things I need to work on. Even if there were 10 things I need to work on, I'm only picking 3. Okay. And then I keep those. And then about every month I go through the same and I'm like, oh man, I need to work on that. Boy, I need to work on that same thing. I need to work on that same thing. I need to work on that same thing. Okay. Now I have something I need to focus and work on. Okay. The last thing I'll tell you about managing workplace rejection is celebrate that persistence, that you're in it to win it. You're an anvil. Maybe you have a boss that just wants to bust your balls and hit you with a hammer. Come on, bring it to me. I'm an anvil, pal. You're not going to be able to break me. Okay. So what you need to do is you need to demonstrate that persistence and share those stories of how you can do that with others. And that's it. I always found that a lot of times, even in the military, when you go to these courses, they try to break your spirit. It's not going to happen. And once they feel that your spirit can't be broken, they're moving on to somebody else. Okay. So you come with that. So that's my tips for you today as far as managing stress and managing workplace rejections. Back to you, Fred.
Well, I love that. And when you were saying that story about don't bring chaos to the situation. And
Right.
I can imagine how much fun you were having, making it as chaotic on those young soldiers as possible for them to try to make those calls, and they have to do it calmly. I'm reminded of actually a true story as well. Dr. Martin Luther King, this was during the Civil Rights Movement. Um, I believe they're trying to get James Meredith enrolled at the University of Ole Miss. And there was a campus riot at the time, and they were having a meeting in a church near there. And they started throwing smoke gas in the church building. And this is on video. Like smoke is seeping in, and the place is surrounded, and there's police, and didn't know, are they going to bombard it? Are they going to set it on fire? Like they didn't know what was going to happen. And you see this video of Dr. King standing up, and in the moment of the most chaos and stress and anxiety, people are concerned for their life. They're concerned about what's going on. And he talked calmly and slowly with peace and certainty, told everyone to stay calm, and we're all going to work through this. The authorities will, and it was a master class on keeping your calm in chaos. And so I just want to encourage you, if you are going through something and just things are stressful, I just thank God that, you're not having necessarily deal with what he was dealing with at the time. So if he can maintain his calm, we can take a moment, be present, keep our composure, and make sure that we're not causing the people that's depending on us, and they're making decisions. Our teams are making decisions, and they're feeding off of our feedback. So if we at least exude a sense of peace and calm, it can at least help our team as they're having to follow our leadership. Beth, I know you've got something on that too.
Well, I
Great
just think
story,
it's,
Freddie.
yeah, absolutely. Thank you for sharing that story. I think when I think about working with individual clients, a lot of times people are trying to figure out, what is it? How do I make this work for myself? How do I, try to navigate chaos and navigate overwhelm and really bring myself back to, like JB was talking about, leveraging structure, embracing routine. I think the thing that has been most helpful is finding what works for you. Finding what makes you feel calm, finding what works for you when it comes to structure. Is it, thinking about your quarterly, your year in quarters, thinking about it, every 3 months, I'm going to look at this and I'm going to think about what I want to accomplish. Is it looking at your week? Is it looking at your vision and your mission and your goals and time blocking in that way? Is it having an accountability partner? What is it that allows you to take this what could be overwhelm and chaos and bring it into something that works for you? And what works for others may not work for you, right? There's 7 habits of highly successful people, and that could work. There might be 1 or 2 in there, but I want you to find the habits that are successful for you. And so as leaders, when we find those and we model those, we can then, allow other people to kind of see how it works, but encourage them to also find theirs, right? So I find that is most helpful. The other thing that I thought was interesting, JB, what you talked about, keeping perspective. I think that is so important. As human beings, we're wired to protect ourselves. When we're walking through the jungle, we have to be ready if a tiger attacks. But not all the time when we're going through life is a tiger about to attack us, right? But we still have this protection. Our ego looks for reasons to keep us safe. So we're looking for this all the time, physically, emotionally, mentally. And when we keep perspective, we say to ourselves, I am no longer in a jungle needing to protect. I might be able to allow some light in. I might be able to allow new perspective. I might be able to allow myself to step back from what I think is scary or overwhelming or maybe causing me stress, and pull back to be able to see that picture and keep that perspective. I love the question that I ask a lot myself is it a mountain or is it a molehill? I ask that in my relationship with my husband. I ask it with my kids. You can get so worked up about something, it feels like a mountain, but maybe it's a molehill. And so keeping that perspective allows you to just have a little more freedom, right? So I love that, JB. I think that it's critical. It's critical when you move through life.
Well, Beth, I'm excited to hear your conversation as you wrapped our third and final segment today on leading a team, encouraging productivity, and leading with empathy. So
Yes,
fire
absolutely.
away.
Yeah. So, I was thinking a little bit about this and I was reminded of a time. I live in a community with a very large university. And a few years ago, we've changed over some leadership. And what I felt was this energy of a little bit of concern, just as you've probably been in some sort of a setting where leadership has changed and you're not quite sure what's happening. And you watch down the ranks, whether it's in the military or in football or anywhere in the world, and you watch how people respond to it differently. And I was asked to come in and speak to a group of administrative support staff, people that support all of the university, and it was about 450 people in this room, right? And I was asked to bring in energy, empower, encouragement, right? So I, thinking all about this for them and how can I, what can I do to kind of stir some good energy when I know there's a lot of people feeling like there's fresh priorities, there's new systems, talk of restructuring. I think a lot of people felt really uncertain. Workloads were heavy. People were feeling like they needed to overperform to prove themselves in the leadership. And when I walked through this in my mind, even that morning, I was still kind of struggling with, what can I say? How can I encourage these people? And as I was getting ready, I thought of an image. And the image was sort of these people that are literally holding up the university, and they're doing so like kind of as if it's this ginormous weight. Like imagine a huge rock and you're underneath it and you're holding it up and you're saying, I don't know if I can do this, right? And I imagine these people kind of feeling this kind of pressure. And I thought, wow, wouldn't it be amazing if I can go from this of fear and anxiety and uncertainty and almost ready to fall over to, I want to present this to you. I want to present this university. I get to show you the beauty and the goodness, and I get to be a part of that. So it goes from underneath to more of this feeling of, I want to show you what it is. And so I started to think about that and I told them that story. And what I saw start to unravel was people's feelings of feeling seen and heard, and conversations were happening. I then put it within the groups at the tables, and they kind of talked about things, and they were hearing each other and feeling each other. But instead of a woe is me, this isn't working out, this is, a tragedy for how things are going, it was more of a, wow, I can take some responsibility in this. I get to do this. I get to support this. In fact, I get to help lead. I get to be on the forefront of how this is going to look for me as an individual, for us as a unit, and us as a university. So all of a sudden it was flip-flop, right? Like, instead of feeling that pressure, we've got people, high five and saying, let's go, let's do this. And that little thought reminded me of leadership. Right? How do we see people where they really are? How do we get to the truth? Freddie, you were talking, we talked about clarity is kind. I think truth is kind. I think transparency is kind. I think when we allow people to share their truth, even if it's scary, even if it's saying, I'm uneasy, I'm worried about this. This is something I'm working through. When we allow people to do that, obviously they feel seen, they feel heard, and then they feel like they can trust. And so how do we do that? So I just kind of want to walk you through a couple things like this. One thing that I want to address right off the bat is that, yes, I've seen empathy be a leadership tool that makes a difference. And yet I want you to hear me, that this does not mean that you are not or that you're compromising productivity. Sometimes people think, if I'm kind, or I'm gentle, or I don't allow people to kind of be who they are, and I get to know them, they're going to take advantage of me, or they're not going to get the work done. And I want you to know that I do think it has been proven that it enhances productivity when people feel that they're heard, they're supported, they're willing to come forward and give their best effort. So it isn't about letting go of expectations or even lowering standards. It's more about aligning actions with team needs and just listening to understand. Because I feel when you learn more, knowledge is power. When you understand more about where your team is coming from, your colleagues are coming from, your leaders are coming from, you're able to kind of create the sense of community. And as Freddie said, we talked about being in a canoe. We know where we're going. We're willing to do that. So that is empathetic leadership, when you're willing to do that. But it is this balance, right? It's understanding people's challenges, but also maintaining high expectations. How do we do that? Well, we set them forward. We let people know. We have routines, like JB was talking about. We're clear, as Freddie talked about. When we set these clear expectations and we follow up with compassion, we empower our teams to thrive in those units. And I think that is so important. Also, as leaders, I think it's important that we create this connectedness and compassion, because I do think that also results in action. And I've seen this firsthand. I think that what's this look like? It's fostering a sense of belonging. Having a group know they're a part of a group. What does that look like? It's, whether it's quick shout outs, or celebrating small wins, or, encouraging team members to get to know each other somehow, whether it's team building or whatever that looks like. It's fostering a sense of, we are a part of this community and we are something special. So that's one way. Another one, Freddie touched on this, is understanding individual motivations. It goes a long way when we get to know somebody as an individual. When we ask the question, if we're a leader and we ask the question of people, what matters most to you in your role? All of a sudden, we start to see what makes them tick. We start to see, this is interesting. I remember once I was asked, go ahead and get a whiteboard out and dream. Go ahead and dream. What do you want to do? Let's go there. Let's do that. And I'm like, yes, let's go. This is exciting, right? Because all of a sudden I was able to tailor my skill, my energy, my passion to be a part of a team that I was excited to be a part of. And I'm personally invested in that all of a sudden, because I was asked, what do you want to do? What are you most excited about? So I think that's really important, is understanding individual motivations. Another one is modeling self-compassion. I think that often we go through the world judging ourselves and watching other people judge themselves. So how can we turn this on their head? How can we encourage people to be self-compassionate towards themselves in the personal world and their professional world? I think a great way is to model it. So when we show that we can manage stress with grace, and we can, like JB said, be resilient and get back in there and jump back in when we need to, bounce back. We show others that, you know what, you might take a hit, but that's okay. You can come back. We want you to come back, and we're going to help you. We're going to support you. And when you foster that team, and we show that self-compassion for ourselves, and we encourage others to do that same thing, it creates a space where sometimes we're knocked down, sometimes we're brought up, sometimes we're the one, extending a hand, and sometimes we're the one that needs to get back in that arena. So when we create that kind of feel, I think that goes a long way when it comes to empathy in the workplace. The last thing that I think is really important as leaders is, okay, how do we encourage productivity with purpose? So we talked about getting to know your people, and we've talked about being, productive, but how do we get into that purpose that we really want it to be? And I think this is just simply aligning your team goals with their individual strengths and passions. I talked about that a second ago, but how do we continually tap in? If somebody's doing a really great job with something, we encourage them. We say, gosh, you're really shining in that area. I'd love for you to take that to the next level. How do you see that happening? Or, you're seeing somebody's kind of a little, okay, I've done what I've done here. How can I challenge you? What do you want? What do you want more of? One of my favorite questions I ask clients, we can ask within leadership, within organizations, what do you want more of? When you get their wheels turning on that, they're going to immediately start to produce more and do more for you. Using these micro goals, creating accountability structures, right? This is where empathetic follow-up can come in. People want to be supportive in achieving their goals, but they don't want to be micromanaged. So how can you check in, offer help, and guide them without, stepping in so much that they don't feel like they're really doing the job that they know that they can do, right? So all of these are things that I think are important when we're thinking of empathy. So I'm going to give you a quick tool. All right. When it comes to leadership, it's just 3 C's. The 3C framework, right? Connection. So regularly checking in with your team on both personal and professional levels. Compassion, actively listening and understanding, and also modeling self-compassion. So that's part of your culture. And the last one is clarity. Communicate your goals, your expectations, the why behind tasks, and it's a two-way street. I once heard that it's not a one-on-one, it's a one-to-one. Meaning, I want to learn as much from you as you're going to learn from me, and vice versa. Everyone has something to learn when you have those meetings of connection like that. I love that. So I'm going to encourage you to use those 3 C's: connection, compassion, and clarity. And your challenge, I think a challenge this week is to really think about who's one person that I could meet one-to-one with and really get to know, understanding their goals, their needs, and what barriers, what challenges they may have, and leave the conversation with both of you understanding how you might be able to support them and how they might be able to support you. And so that next time you meet, you're same, you're in alignment, and you're part of that team. That's where empathy really truly becomes a leadership tool. So JB, Freddie, what you got? Tell me about your experience with that.
Beth, Tony Robbins has nothing on you. That's just all I want to say. Okay. Because you got this going. Well done. Well done. Really, really good points.
I love it. It's that one-to-one instead of one-on-one, having that mentality of being intentionally grounded, and I want to connect with you. I want to lead you, but I can only lead someone that wants to have connection. That's leadership is connection. That's a bond. That's
Mhm,
a
mhm.
person choosing to receive leadership, to receive information, to receive guidance. I've got to trust that I can share my ideas with you, right? Share that last
Mhm.
10%. Um, and so I absolutely love, love, love those points, Beth. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Man, where did the time go? Well, Beth
I
and
know
JB,
it.
you
I
guys,
know it.
you guys have been a blessing to me. And for those of you listening, again, we simply wanted to put something in place to give you some practical tools to help you personally and professionally that you can apply at work, that you can be able to build, lead, and support your teams, your organizations more effectively. Many of you are already doing this. These are just hopefully some cool reminders to sharpen that axe, to sharpen those tools so you can accomplish the goals that you've set out for yourself and for your organization. And so with that, until next time, we'll see you again soon. Bye,
Thank
everyone.
you.